I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing in the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Hello and welcome back to 5-Star Counsel. I am John Strohmeyer. This week we are talking about recruiting, hiring, and onboarding. We have lots of things to think about because as business owners, as lawyers, we need people to work for us if we're expecting to grow at all. And for us to do that, we need to get the right people in. So we're going to talk about what that process looks like and how we get the right folks into our law firms. So really, this week, it's going to be some practical experience, some thoughts about not only what are we doing as employers, but things that job seekers can think about as they're looking for jobs. So let's get started. Let's remember that as we're always thinking about service, we're always thinking service is how a business easily delivers. How easily can we make it to get things done for our clients, for our employees, for everything else. And then we want to make sure that as we're delivering, that service isn't some sort of red herring that we're introducing. We want to make sure that we're thinking about how can we make it easy for people and not worry about what's going to be dropped off, what's going to not actually add to the client's result. Because as lawyers, clients are coming to us to deliver a result. They're not coming to us for our drink menu, a massage parlor, or any other services that we don't provide. So when we start giving them things that don't move the ball for them, don't move a needle for them, we're really playing on risky ground. Is it actually going to help them? Is that going to just be wasting our money? Finally, going forward, service is going to be a combination of both high-tech things and high-touch things. So both the technology to streamline and make things faster and easier, but we don't want to get so focused on the technology and automating things that just these sequences run without any human interaction. We want to make sure that the high touch part of it, that the human interaction is there to help modify and kind of provide some slack in the system. Because if something goes wrong, we want to have a human who's there to help kind of mediate the process. We don't want it to just be all machines, where there's some worry of, well, the machines are going to take over. The machines will do everything for us, and then there won't be anything left. The reality is there's plenty for lawyers to do, and we need to focus on how we can best serve. So when we start thinking about what our business has done and what it does, we've talked about how marketing, sales, and then our product, and the product being broken down into physical component, technical component, and service component, how that's used to all combine and deliver what the client experiences. So service is part of that, and it's kind of the adjectives on how we're delivering. Is it fast? Is it easy? Is it clear? Is it clean? That all results in the client's experience. Not everything that the business does will be part of the experience. Payroll's not going to be part of the client experience. They'll see that people work for you, and whether or not they're kind of happy with what's going on and whether or not they're getting paid. But not every part of service winds up being part of the experience that they receive. And likewise, from the other side, the client's not going to experience everything that the business does. And that's fine. What we want to think about, though, is being the flip side of that client experience is the work experience. And today we're talking about recruiting, hiring, and then the physical office space that you're living in. What are the conditions? Now, obviously, in this time of COVID, those office conditions are going to look a lot more like home than they did just a year ago. So we're going to think about that in a few different ways. But let's start with that recruiting. When you're putting something out, when you as the business owner start looking for a new person to work for you, you've got to think who are those people that should be working for you? And this goes to the very beginning. What values should a person who works for you have? Because if you haven't set out what those values are, you're going to get almost anybody with the right technical skills will work. And it's not wrong to hire in part for technical skills, but you need to make sure that the person who's working for you also has the right values. Because if they have different values than you do, it's going to be a frustrating experience on both sides. Not only for you when they don't act in the way that you need them to act, but for them when you operate in your way according to your values, they're going to feel like their values are getting trampled on when you don't respect them. So by setting out those values and knowing what you're looking for, it's going to help you create your recruiting offers, in terms of job offers and what you're looking for. Because one of the things that comes across so often is the job posts for legal jobs are just, looking for a paralegal with 7 years relevant experience, looking for associate attorney with minimum 3 years experience in blank expertise. What that says, though, is they're not conveying anything more about the person other than those technical skills. They're not looking for any values. There's nothing to say, this job fits for me. And so anybody could fit in as long as they've got the right skills. That's not a bad place to start, but ultimately, if you want to get people who are going to deliver higher level service for you, you need to pick out the right people who are going to be excited and able to come and work in the way that you need them to. So spending the front end time to figure out who those people are based on those values, what it's going to do is it's going to trickle through everything that you're doing. Because then when you start creating that job post, you'll layer in some of the values that you're looking for. We've talked about the values that my firm has, and prepared and adaptable come to mind. Well, we want people to show that they've done the right thing and they know what's to be expected of them. In our job applications, we're asking for a resume and a cover letter. We're also showing them that some of the skills they're going to need include, if possible, some light coding. Now, we don't need them to be able to program, set up a server on AWS, but if they can work inside of Word, if they've got that kind of logical thinking ability that actually goes along pretty well with what lawyers are doing, that's going to help, because there are going to be pieces to the puzzle that they're going to need to solve. We've got one of our interns working on a project in Excel right now, and it's going to be more than just add, subtract, multiply, and divide. They're using formulas inside of Excel to extract some data on a project. That's really important that they know and are familiar with Excel and how to use it, and so that they can use those formulas to get the right answer and make their jobs easier. So letting people know this is what's going to be expected of you, and more than just a filing and clerking things, but you'll be expected to learn these skills. The more you can tell people about what that job is and who you are, conveying, putting your values up on the website, for example, the more you can tell them about yourself, it ends up making it look a lot like our marketing. Here's what we do, here's the people we do it for, and here's why we're an expert in it. You're ultimately going to try and make the same pitch to people who are going to come and work for you. Here's what we do. Here's what you as a potential employee should look like, not only in terms of education and skills, but also values and mindset. We want these people, again, we're trying to convey in our job posts. We're going to try and have fun. We're going to ask you to do things that are specific. We're asking them to make sure that they've listed their GPA and their expected graduation date for students. Why? Those are important things. We're not making hiring decisions based on GPA, but it is important that they provide that information. Hiding the ball on what they're going to be expected to do, or allowing them to hide the ball when, right now as students, their job is to get great grades. If they're not doing it, if they're not at least owning up to, here are my grades and this is why they're not so great, they're not doing their job. And as lawyers, we shouldn't tolerate that from potential employees. Look, if you don't want to put a GPA down, that's fine. We're going to give you one chance to correct that after we've seen that you missed it. But ultimately, it's less about the GPA and more about saying, can you exhibit the lawyer skills of addressing bad facts when they exist? That's what we're looking for. From the hiring side, making sure that resume, are they conveying what we're looking for? Can we see that they have the skills that we need? Again, law school doesn't teach you a lot of specific skills. There's a lot of freedom to take classes you want. But if you're in any sort of not specialized practice, has the person applying taken classes relevant to your job? Have they shown they're doing some of the work before they've gotten there, that they're going to be the superstar that you need them to be? And from the flip side, as an applicant, how can you show that you're going to be that superstar? Have you done some of the work? Have you written articles? Whatever you can do to make it easy for them to see, oh, this is a person who's going to come in and we're not going to have to train them as much, or, we're not starting from ground zero. Next, what we're looking at in the actual interview process from both sides is, how can we ask similar questions across multiple interviews? Because when you start asking the same questions over and over, you'll start to see what good answers are and what bad answers are. And this doesn't mean that you're having the same questions every time, because you'll have follow-up questions that'll be specific to each person. But what you will be looking for is, can this person, you've seen this, you've asked the same questions. Can you get good answers? You'll start to recognize, this is what a good answer to this question looks like, and this is what a bad answer to this question looks like. So when we start thinking about what questions we're looking at, well, there are going to be some standard questions we're looking at. Tell me about a weakness you have. We're not focused on what that weakness is, as long as it's not mission critical. For me, I'm looking for somebody who is going to want to do tax and estate planning. If they don't like dealing with people, if they can't deal with them, if they don't want to deal with numbers, that's going to be a mission critical skill that we can't really deal with. But if they're 1 mile time, if they can never get the 1 mile race under 10 minutes, I don't really care so much. And this is coming from a guy who runs marathons. Like, I've got a decent mile time, but I'm not hiring based on that. I'm looking for somebody who can come in and do the work that we need doing. So how are we asking those questions? So are they identifying a weakness that isn't going to be mission critical? Are they not giving me a BS answer that says, oh, I care too much or I work too hard? Look, anybody's going to say that. And they need, if you're given that answer, you shouldn't accept it. It's like saying, we're only here for effort. Well, we're here for results. That's what clients come to us for. So we need to make sure that the results they're giving us come through, and they're demonstrating that in the interview process. So, identifying that weakness, making sure it's a real one and that it's not mission critical, and showing how have they grown. Because you don't want somebody who's going to come in and stay at the same level. You're going to want somebody who's willing to grow. So how have they recognized they had this weakness? And how have they gotten over it? What are they doing to make sure that the potential downside from these weaknesses don't manifest and result in dropped balls for your clients? So one of my weaknesses is, I like to think I can keep everything in my head. And I've just learned I've got to write things down. I keep pads, I've got to-do lists, and I just work through them, prioritizing, reprioritizing, making sure the top things are on the list every day so that we get those mission critical items done. That's how I've addressed my weakness of trying to, take on too much. Running a business is a lot of things. And so making sure I know what needs to be done and keeping them all in the air and knowing how to delegate down. That's how I manage what's going on. At this point, I've got a staff that works for me because I can't do it all. From the other side, from the interview side, or from the job applicant side, making sure that you're ready for these standard questions. We've got an interview coming up soon with Davis Wynn. He used to work for McKinsey, and they've got a very structured interview process where they're asking people to think on their feet and talk through business cases. Most lawyers aren't expecting anybody to provide legal answers or even legal reasoning in the interviews. And I think that's probably a mistake. Having some general thoughts on what, depending on the level of the hire you're looking at, if this is a 7th-year associate you're looking to bring in, you probably need to be asking them relevant questions about the practice area so you can make sure they know what they're doing. Are they a 7th year, or are they just somebody who's been practicing law for 7 years and is really going to be more like a 1st-year associate that you're going to have to train up from scratch? You may still want that person to come work in the firm based on their values and their mindset, but just letting you know, well, they don't know what they're going to be doing. We need to get that up and ready. So as the interviewee, knowing you're going to have to explain yourself, you should be ready for any holes in your resume and be able to show, making it easy. Here's our theme. We're always coming back to, how can you make it easy for the other person interviewing to see this is somebody who can come in and will be a superstar on our team. They'll make it easy for us. You want to keep driving back to that, because most people aren't prepared for those interviews beyond kind of some fumbled answers and, tell me about yourself, and they just start from where they went to high school or where they grew up. Employers aren't looking for where you grew up. They're looking for, how can you make my job easier? So when you start answering with, well, I went to high school here and I like doing this, in response to a tell me about yourself, you're missing the point of that question. You need to be answering the question of how does who I am and what I want to do make your life easier? I'm John. I'm a tax and estate planning attorney. I'm board certified. I'm looking to come join your practice because you have interesting work and I think I can do really well. And I'm looking to learn from what you do. That'd be a great way of telling them why you're there and how you're going to help them and how you're hopefully going to fit in. Just knowing about the practice area is one thing, but knowing how you can show that you fit in, you've done your homework as the interviewee, that's what they're looking for. Make it easy for them to say yes to you. Once we move beyond that, we're looking at, the onboarding. If you get through the interviews, making sure they know what their job offer is, making sure they know how to respond and when they can accept a job offer and how that's going to be accepted. Having a job offer, you want to make sure that it's not an open-ended forever option for them. They're going to need to know when and how they're going to take advantage of it and what we can do to help bring them on board. And so it's not just you come in for the first few days and you're going to fill out your paperwork for the first 4 hours, and then we're going to sit you at the desk. There needs to be some concerted effort at onboarding where this is how we work. These are the standards that we work under, and this is how you're going to do things. Because this firm, you want to have a consistent output. You're going to need to make sure that you're kind of swabbing the decks clean when they come in so that they know what's expected of them, how they're going to deliver, and what the finished product looks like. You're probably also going to have a few training projects. Well, look, here are some things we've done in the past. This is what we want you to do now. For me, here are some basic estate plans. We're producing charts for clients so they know what to do. So when we do that, we want you to go through some old estate plans, some of the simpler ones first, create the charts, know where the pieces of the charts go, and tell us what you didn't understand. Once you've done some of the simple ones and you've gotten familiar with how our documents are structured, then we're going to move you on to some more medium scale projects. Look through these documents that have a few wrinkles in them. Know how we structure things when things aren't completely straightforward. And then finally, we'll throw you in the deep end and say, here are the complicated ones. What's going on? Can you recognize the pieces that are in this estate plan? Can you see the difference between the types of trust? We want you to recognize what's in here because you'll see these, not every day, but you'll see enough of them that you need to know what's going on. And so what you're doing is when you're onboarding, you're making it easy for that person to come in and be a part of your team. They know what to expect, where things are filed, are there written procedures for how to get things done so that they know what needs to be done and what is expected of them. Making sure also that as they do things, if there isn't a procedure in place, you want them creating those procedures so that they can hand it off to somebody else. Ultimately, we want people who are getting better at jobs. So as the employer, we want to start looking for ways that we can say, this is what you need to do. This is what this job entails. And here are the tools that are going to be needed. The more you can hand that off and train other people behind you as the new hire, that doesn't make your job up for more risk. It actually makes you more employable, because the more you can train people, the more things we can trust you with. And so we're looking at this from both sides, and what's good for the company of setting up processes and procedures ultimately makes it better for the employee, because they know what's expected of them. They're getting trained. They're not having to fumble around in the dark and try and figure out, what do I do and what does a good finished product look like? So we've talked a lot today about kind of the bringing somebody in. Again, I've said this a few times across multiple episodes. This comes under management, and management really is just the service that we're providing to our employees instead of the service that we're providing to our customers. So how are we delivering that work experience? And it starts from the moment that we put that job offer or the job post out there. What is out there? Who are you coming to work for? This is what it's going to look like. Make it easy for somebody to say, yes, this is a place where I want to come work. Make it easy for them to see themselves working for you. When you start interviewing, making it easy for them to answer the questions. We're not going to be a pushover in an interview, but making it easy for them to demonstrate what they've done and how they've done it. And then once they start working for us, making it easy for them to know what's expected of them, what the good work product looks like, and giving them some examples of, this is how you should do it. This is how we've done it before, and getting their feedback and buy-in so they know what to look for. From the interviewee side, from the job applicant side, when you're going in, what can you tell about the firm? You're doing your research on this firm. You want to know if you're going to fit in there. If you're going to fit in, that's a good thing to know before you get there. When you get to the interview, you're trying to make it as easy as possible for that person interviewing you to see you fitting in and being a superstar in that firm. And then finally, once you're onboarded, looking for ways that you can get trained on the work product that they were happiest with. What were the projects where they did a good job? You don't need the best of the best project, but just even if they don't have that training process in place where they're going to give you, here are the easy projects to look at where we've been happy with what we did, asking and getting some guidelines on what are some recent projects. How can you learn from what they're doing so that you can pull out what's necessary for them? There's a lot in this. We've covered just a part of it. Next week, we're going to be thinking about some different things, but thanks for joining us. I'm John Strohmeyer with 5-Star Counsel. Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.